Welcome back to the part 2 of the episode about friendship. So let's get started. And that brought me to another question is about jealousy.
Okay.
Yeah, so I like that question. I kind of had a few moments being jealous of my friends that they were so successful and they've had this and things like that. Like, how would you deal with that? Or have you ever had that moment?
That's so interesting because I know when we talked about the question before, I was thinking of it more as like being jealous of friends' time. So for myself, like when I felt jealous of other friends, it's usually been if say two of my mutual friends were hanging out without me, or excuse me, the main one for me that I've experienced like time and time again is I'm close with someone and we talk a lot, and then they get a boyfriend or girlfriend or partner and they're gone. Right. So that to me,
yeah,
that's another aspect of jealousy where, you know, of course I'm happy for my friend, but it obviously doesn't feel good to just feel like perhaps you were a stand-in, as a partner for them. And then now that they have the real thing, they're sort of gone a little bit. Cause then you feel like you've come to rely on them a little bit. But I think, yeah, I mean, I have definitely felt jealous of some of my friends, particularly like if they're partnered or, you know, if they're, if they're able to like make a home and kind of a family of their own, whether that's just like having a partner and, you know, a dog or whatever. Because I think once you get to a certain age, however you've lived your life, there are certain societal expectations that go along with it. So anyway, that was my roundabout way of saying that when I think of jealousy and friendship, I guess there's lots of different facets of it for me.
Mm-hmm. And then I have another question about jealousy is, have you ever had friends that are jealous of what you have?
I don't think so. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, they haven't told me.
The reason I'm asking you is sometimes I saw this, actually just saw a few posts about that, is people who have good life or happy life, they have what they have, and then they have friends who don't have those sort of things. And when you share your happiness, what do you think your happiness will be kind of a hurt to your friend because she or he didn't have it?
Yeah, I mean, I think jealousy and envy are just normal human emotions, and the more we stigmatize them or the more we pretend that we don't have them, you're kind of denying your basic human existence, right? I think that probably everybody has those feelings. I do think ultimately a true friend would be happy for their friend, right? But at the same time, I think it's perfectly normal to have those kind of feelings crop up. I think something for me when I do feel those feelings of jealousy or envy emerging, I sort of remember that it sounds a bit cheesy maybe, but everyone's sort of on their own journey, right? And especially people who have seemingly perfect lives are not necessarily happy. You never know what's going on with someone. And especially like you were saying before, Bae, when you're a private person, you don't share everything with everyone. It's easy to assume that everyone else is doing better than you are. But that might not necessarily be the case, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah. That reminded me of the book I'm writing now. I really love the book. It's called The Psychology of Money. I don't know if you ever heard of it. I highly recommend. I know it's about money, but some of the stories there and saying there are more like life inspiring. So I really like it. And he says, whatever you see there, it's not as good as you thought, and it's not as bad as you thought as well. So I'm like, I like that. So that actually really reminded me of that saying.
The Psychology of Money. I'll definitely have to check it out. I will say too, I think, and maybe this is unkind or an overgeneralization, but I do think that typically people who are so focused on other people's lives, I think that's usually a result of them being unhappy in their own life, right? So
Get a life.
No, because again, on the one hand, I do empathize. Like I said, I think it's normal human emotion. It's okay. Yeah. On the other hand, if you're just constantly nitpicking, you know, I mean, I've had that even with my brother, not to go too much off topic, but, you know, my brother has a beautiful girlfriend. They've been together for, you know, over a decade, and she has the most wonderful family, to the point where, you know, I've tried to get into the family. I was like, does she have a cousin, male, female? I'm open, you know, just to get into this wonderful family. Right. And I remember like growing up, even being so jealous of my brother that he had this wonderful family to kind of fall back on. Whereas I just had our family. No offense, Dad. But I think, but again, then when you start talking to him, and this isn't to, you know, I don't know if he'll ever see this. I don't want to like, you know, psychoanalyze my brother's relationship or anything. But, you know, once you talk to him, you realize like things aren't perfect, and, you know, things are healthy and great. But, you know, I mean, everyone has their problems, I guess. And I've just found, again, like, because I've spent a lot of my adult life single, I tend to sort of brush aside, like, as soon as someone has problems, but it's like they have a partner, I was like, well, at least I don't have to do it alone. It's like, well, no, like everyone has their problems, you know, like I just find sometimes I can be a bit unempathetic in my worst moments.
Yeah, I totally understand that part.
I'm being very honest on this this podcast.
I will put a disclaimer there that be kind to our conversation. Yeah. So, I totally forgot about the question I was asking, but
sorry, I think I derailed us.
But I think for me, I had a few moments like not because like I think what you mentioned there, like your friends have their partners there or they took different directions. But I totally agree that everyone has a different journey, and to be quite honest, it doesn't matter who you are with right now and how close you are with, and eventually it's just your very own journey, and every decision you may ask or you may talk about that with someone you love, but then eventually you'll have to make the choice yourself and then take on a different direction, right? So I think that really hit me when you said that. Yeah. Now, if I have a jealous moment, I will just remember Alicia said that.
Great. A little Alicia in your head. Well, no, that's something that I've actually said to myself is, you know, whether or not at the end of the night, no matter whether someone's in bed beside you or not, it's just you kind of looking up at the ceiling. And
exactly.
And I do think that some of the loneliest people, like it's much lonelier to be in a relationship that isn't right for you than to be single and to be kind of open to finding a relationship, right? Anyway, I know this isn't a relationship podcast, but just something I've been thinking about, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to feel like you're trapped in any kind of like a relationship that doesn't really work for you.
Totally. But again, I mean, society at large, and even, you know, someone else's friends might be looking and going, oh, I wish I had what they had. But again, I think it's so important. And in today's, you know, like, I don't like to necessarily demonize social media, but everyone's kind of putting a certain image of themselves out there. And it's not, of course, it doesn't tell the whole story, right?
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's just something to remember.
Yeah, 100%. I told you I have this video thing going on. So when I started this channel, I never thought about having anything. So I was doing this for my own sake of practicing my English, because I had a academic conference coming up. So I was trying to kind of sharpen my skills at that moment. So I started doing the 7-day challenge of speaking English or whatever. So kind of got some attention there. And then people said, oh, I like how you are so confident. I like how you are so positive. I was like, are you sure you're talking about me? Because I'm totally the opposite person.
That's so funny, babe.
Yeah, but how they picture me is like, wow, I never thought about me being confident and positive, because I'm always negative about everything.
Oh, see, I don't see you as a negative person either. I see you as pretty positive also. But maybe that's just because you're nice to me. I mean, if I was to come to you with a problem, you always have a certain perspective that just makes me feel better, I guess.
I see that's when I think we have good relationship, because when I'm not being positive to you, I think when you are around, when we talk about things, I just kind of feel positive. And if there are a lot of things that, oh, now I understood why that happened to me. Oh, now I figure out the things like, oh, I shouldn't kind of just dwell on that thing. That's because you're around, and then I started talking to you and I feel like, that's really interesting. I didn't really thought about that. So that's why I was like, okay, that's a good topic.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. But, you know, I think that's something that's really important, is you do have to surround yourself with people who make you feel good, who will be honest with you, that's true friendship. But I mean, and that's something I learned growing up, I think with my dad. I love my dad and we have a great relationship, but he is by and large a very negative person. And there are times where I'm around him where I think, oh, like, why do I feel so heavy? Why do I feel so weighed down? And then when I'm with people like you, who you cultivate your own your own relationships outside of your family. And so I just think, for myself personally, I just surround myself with people who make me feel good. Right. It doesn't mean that things are always going to be, sunshine and roses, but people's essence or their outlook is it maybe inspires you in a way, I guess.
You're looking for something that make you feel safe and happy. That's human nature, I guess.
Totally.
Yeah. And then that comes to another question. I'm going to just go around the question is, when you talk about you have to be, like, not you have to be, you're always honest with your friend. You would tell the truth with them, things like that. I had this friendship a while ago. I think I was too honest. I tend to be a little bit being always lecturing people or lecturing at people. And I was like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, you shouldn't do this. This is not good for you. I didn't realize until one day. And then she said, why are you always negative about me? And I was like, oh, I mean, I didn't really mean that. And I just thought about it like, this will look good on you. And the other one didn't. And I didn't say that you are terrible. I mean, it's the thing. And then she didn't really like it. And then we kind of had a fight about like I wasn't really being like that. And then she brought out a lot of things like you're always next to me and you're always saying no to me, things like that. And then it really hurt me. I feel like really heartbroken when she said that. And then we kind of took different directions. So and then how I ended the friendship, I actually really cherished. So my question is, have you ever ended a friendship before?
Yes, I had a friend in high school. And we, in the yearbook, in our graduating year, we were voted most likely to stay best friends forever. And like less than a year later, we were not speaking anymore. And it was entirely my fault. And here's the thing that, and actually, not to bring things back to my dad, but my dad at the time gave me advice. And it was good advice. And I didn't follow it. And it was a really good learning experience for me because I think, and actually you're making me think, Bay, of all the friendships I've ended. I know, not a ton, but a few, and not all of them on good terms. But anyway, with this friend from high school, I kind of, once we got to university, I sort of realized like she could be very judgmental of other people, and we just weren't in sync anymore. And I remember going to my dad about this, and my dad saying, just let it die out gradually, maintain some distance. And I just went, you know what? No, I don't like this. I was like, I want it to end now. And so I just started ignoring her at school, which was very awkward because we saw each other a lot. We had a lot of similar classes, and and I remember at a time, eventually she just said, like, why are you ignoring me? And then we had a bit of a blowout. And then, we did end up apologizing to each other, hugging, wishing each other well. But I was very honest with her. And I said, I'm sorry, I just don't really want to be your friend anymore. Aww. But after that, it was, it was awkward. And I realized like that I acted very poorly and I hurt this person who, just because I realized that she wasn't the kind of person that I wanted to be friends with anymore, she never treated me anything but nicely, with respect. And she certainly didn't deserve that sort of treatment. So that's actually something that I've always regretted. And I never want to forget that experience because it did teach me that, I think sometimes when you're a bit of a people pleaser, you tend to go along with things, right? I don't know if you can relate to that, but
100%.
Yeah. But then you end up resenting the person a little bit, right? Because you feel like you're kind of bending over to their will. Right. And so I would say like again, and it's just been a lot of like years of practice now where I kind of, as soon as I recognize that I'm not really a fan of a person, I'm not going to go along and just like be their friend. I'm going to try and maintain some distance. So anyway, to answer your question, yes, I have ended friendships before. Mm-hmm. And I think what I've realized is it's best, if you can, to not hurt the person and to just gradually distance yourself, because it's not a good feeling to be on bad terms with people. Sometimes it has to happen, if they do something really bad, but yeah, for the most part, I think that it is possible to end friendships without hurting the other person.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very terrible at letting things go. And I don't like we said in the very beginning, I don't like confrontation too, but I kind of feel like I wanted to end it officially or something like that instead of just trying to just let it die out. But then it turns out hurting each other even more. And so that's why I really like this question, and I wanted to ask you because I ended a few friendships there and I felt really terrible. Some of them, like I feel like, well, it didn't feel really good, but it was the right decision. But some of the things I feel like I regretted what I did to them, and now never got a chance to say, oh, I'm sorry, and I shouldn't do that to you, and I was really being a-hole at that moment, right? So, but yeah, and now I feel like, so brought to another question is what you learned from your friendship. I feel like for me, you have to know yourself, what kind of person you are and what kind of personality you have. And that's how you make friends and maintain a friendship. And then that way you don't feel like, and I'm 100% people pleaser and I never change. And sometimes I feel like I'm trying to bend my rules and trying to fit in your needs. And then to the point, I feel like I just hate you and hate myself and hate the whole friendship. So now I'm more like, well, if we can get along, I'm really happy. But I don't really want to make a lot of compromises to keep this friendship, right? So that's something.
Yeah, but you're right, Obey. Like, just knowing yourself is so important, and also caring enough about yourself to maintain your boundaries is really crucial in friendship. And in terms of confrontation that you spoke about, I do think, confrontation is something I really struggle with. I still do. I've gotten a little bit better over the years. I've done a lot of work with it, but it is also sometimes necessary. And the way I think of it is, if you care enough about the friendship and you're upset, then you owe that yourself and the other person honesty, right? I have had to do that a couple times. There's a way to be kind about it, but if you if you give a hoot about the friendship, then you also are going to work for it, right? And I think it's tricky when you've been friends with people long enough. Like I mentioned, I have a group of friends I've been friends with for over 17 years, over half our lives. Mm-hmm. And there have been times where I've really been upset by things that they've done, perhaps, and I'm sure it's mutual. And then I've let it slide. And something really magical happened when, I was able to tell a friend that they had hurt me. And I did it, choking out the words through my tears, but I was able to spit it out. And because I took a long time to think about what I wanted to say, and to also frame it in such a way as, I care about our friendship, and this is why I'm being honest and vulnerable with you right now, the response was incredible. Not only did my friend apologize and was very compassionate, but it really helped me to feel closer to her. And I think ultimately it strengthened our friendship too. So I understand confrontation is hard. It's something I struggle with too, but it also is necessary at times. Yeah. So, confront me if you need to, babe.
I will. But that is, well, I never thought about that. I mean, having conversation like that is definitely hurting, and for both of you and your friends. But being honest means you have to show your vulnerability at that moment, saying that, well, I feel hurt because of what you've done. And also you may face the risk of losing the friend, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot of gut to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think ultimately, I mean, if being honest about, being hurt is something that's going to threaten the entire friendship, then I would argue maybe that friendship isn't worth maintaining to some degree. Again, I'm sure, every situation is different. I'm no psychotherapist or anything. But yeah, I just think most friendships, they can't exist on just like pure happy honesty all the time. Like if you're someone's true friend, you're going to see them at at their best and at their worst. What's the whole contrived Instagram thing that's like, if you don't if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best, or whatever. Right? I mean, it's been overused, but I think there is a bit of a grain of truth in it. It's like you have to be, I mean, part of having an honest friendship is being your whole self, I guess.
And I think that is a great thing to talk about, not only just apply to
Speaking of friends, there's my friend
Bob. Yeah. Not only applies to friendship, I think any kind of a friendship or any kind of a relationship will work. Just because I think human beings tend to assume everything, especially when it comes to relationships. They will assume that you're thinking this way. They assume you should think for them and things like that. Once they didn't meet your expectation, and you will feel disappointed, and then you feel hurt, and then you have this resentment. You go, why did she do that to me? And even like you assume their motive.
Like, it's all in your own head. You're
right, and then you have the whole drama.
Yeah. And you can just overthink it. No, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've been there, right? I've had these whole conversations in my head, and I've just assumed. And as soon as you actually, I'm full of like contrived old sayings, but what's the saying? It's like assumptions make an ass out of you and me, or whatever, right? And so I think when you assume things, I mean, it's much harder to say it out loud and to actually have a conversation with the person. But again, I mean, there's what's that thing that Brene Brown says? It's like you can't have like joy without sadness. You can't have joy without vulnerability, right?
Yeah. Did you read the book?
I've read, so I own all 4 of Brene Brown. Well, I guess she's written 5 now. I have the first 4 books, and I have read, I think, most of them. But I do really like her podcast. Anyway, sorry, Bae, I'm on your podcast, but I'm actually here to promote Brene Brown.
But yes, sadly, she just says pause her 2 podcasts. And there's a lot of things going on with Joe Rogan and everything, and she said, I'm gonna stop there for now, and until further notice. Then I don't know when, but I kind of feel sad about whatever going on. Anyway, so that's not my. Then I have the very last question, which is a very classic question: is can men and women actually be real friends without romance? Okay.
I mean, I think so. But again, I mean, it could be like, because I identify as queer, things are a bit different. Like, for instance, like I'm attracted to women, but you and I are friends and I'm not attracted to you. I mean, I think you're beautiful and lovely, and I adore you, but so I think, I don't know. I mean, it's, this is another thing that I think has been really enforced, through the media, right? I mean, I don't know if you've seen When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, yeah.
Classic, like 1980s rom-com, love it to death. But their whole thing, right, is that, can men and women really be friends? And then, of course, over the course of this, I think it's like a 12-year friendship in the movie, they do, end up falling in love. And I think that can happen sometimes. But I think by and large, like generally when you meet someone, and I'm sure like there are exceptions, but generally when you meet someone, whether or not you're attracted to them. And I think this whole like friends to lovers trope is, again, something that's been really reinforced in movies and TV. But I will say there have been some times, actually a few times, where I thought I was friends with a guy, and either it turned out that he was looking for something romantic, or more often than not, as soon as he got a girlfriend, he was gone. And again, that made me feel like I was, their stand-in girlfriend or something, right? And it was, it was hurtful. And so I will say, like, if people, it's really hard to be honest with someone about your intentions. But, if you're attracted to someone, like, ask them on a date. Like, don't mislead them into thinking that you're a friend, and then try and like turn the tables, right? But I guess for myself, I mean, I do have like, I think 2, straight dude friends that I can think of, and I don't have any sort of romantic attraction to them, and I think it's mutual. So I don't know. Again, I think some people, a lot of times heterosexual guys, but I'm sure women too. Some people might, enter friendships hoping for more, which I don't think is right. But ultimately, I mean, I do think it's possible. Do you think
Yeah.
it's possible?
I think it's possible. I do have a guy friend, of course, straight, and he's my best friend. So it makes me to think about another thing is about boundaries, because when you have guy friends, right, and then they're gonna have to have their own partners. And then that means that they will pay less attention to you. Or let's say if I text him a message like during a midnight, would that affect his relationship with her or his or her girlfriend? So that's something that I was thinking, like, if you don't text them very often or you don't share things with them, how could you guys be best friends? But if you do share a lot of things with with him, and then do you think you're trying to invade that kind of relationship he was in with someone else?
Yeah, I mean, one of my guy friends does have a fiance, and I feel like even subconsciously, like I have made efforts to almost like signify to her that, or signal to her that I'm not a threat or whatever, which is kind of strange. I think it's kind of, I don't know. My friend Keely calls it like our monkey brains, right? There is kind of this like primordial, like ooga booga, like my mate, or whatever. Stay away. But yeah, I mean, I do also think like, if your girlfriend is like so insanely jealous of you texting another girl, like obviously she doesn't trust you. My again, I don't know if this will get back. Hopefully not. My cousin, her husband, his best friend is a girl, and they grew up together. And when my cousin first met her mother-in-law, her mother-in-law said to her, what did she say? She's like, "Oh yeah, we always thought that he would marry Katie." And Emily was kind of like, "Oh, like, do you even like me?" But again, I think it is feeding into this sort of like trope of, as soon as people just simplify things, and people are always craving, what we were talking about before. It's like they just want to see people get married and have babies and buy houses and whatever, the old like American dream or whatever. But I think it's easy to assume, like, if you see two young people of opposite, perceived genders sitting near each other, oh, they must be in love. Like, I'm pretty sure I remember when I was in university, the first time I was in university, and my brother, who's 2 years younger than me, was at the same university, and once in a while we get lunch, and I remember being cognizant of the fact that, like, I hope people don't think we're a couple. But people will just assume anything too, right?
100%. Even my parents did that too. I remember before I came here, and my friend and I were always like, we will find a time and chat with each other about life stuff and other things. And then he tended to give me a ride, and my parents saw that, especially my mom saw that. She was so furious because she thought I was dating with him, and without telling her. And I was like, "No, I told you about him. He's my best friend. We're like a sister and brother. What are like you even thought you even said he's a good guy, and now you're talking about we're being couple or something like that." Like, and then they just, well, but like the way you guys were talking, and the way he gave you a ride, I'm like, yeah, but that's what a friend does to me. Yeah. And then, but they just assume, and they were so worried that I would be in a relationship with him. And like,
what's wrong with him?
He lived a little bit far from where my parents live, and now I'm really far from my parents, so let's just ignore that part. But and they were really worried about that. I was like, "Oh, okay, don't worry about that. Now I'm in another country, so you guys are totally fine." Yeah, but
it's not just, sorry, babe, I mean, interrupt you again. Yeah. It's not just parents though, because even right now, I have a straight male roommate, right? And it's just him and I. He's like 7 years younger than me. Wonderful guy. We hang out all the time, obviously we live together, we do things together, we watch movies, TV, etc. And he's a wonderful person. And I can't tell you how many like whispering this so he doesn't hear this. I can't believe how many of my classmates, I'll talk about him or say, because he's a funny guy, and they'll insinuate that there's something romantic going on, and I'm like, again, this boy is 7 years younger than me. He's like a little brother. I would never think of him like that. And yet even people like of kind of our generation are just assuming, oh, like it must be a meet cute, like they must be in love. And so it is strange, eh? It's like, I think we maybe need to normalize like boy-girl friendships more.
Yeah, I think I never actually thought about that. before you brought this up, I just when you said about him like how nice, and then when you came to visit me, you said, oh, he's so nice and he was nice to Tofu, and Tofu liked him, and I was like, that's a totally Alicia move. Be a friend. I never thought about there was be something else involved, but that's very interesting. Yeah. It's hard. I think normalizing the boy and girl friendship is something we may have to think about that, but also like a lot of things you can't control, right? So even they say, wow, you don't have to think about this relationship in that way, but people are going to just be assuming that there is romance in romantic stuff involved, because that's how things has been working for thousands of years. If there's a guy, there's a woman, and it has to be something going on.
Yeah. I mean, and society is very heteronormative, right? So they just assume like boy, girl, they must love each other. Like, but I think part of it too, to be fair, is also innocent. Like I know, my family has had, when I've had male friends, I think my dad has sometimes been like, oh, just a friend or whatever. But part of it is also like, I think that your friends and family hopefully probably want the best for you, and maybe they just want you to have a partner. Like, again, I know, and I don't want to make our conversation about friendship all about like being single or anything. But again, this is something like as a single person and as like the only single person in my family, right? I think there is kind of this like, oh, when's Alicia going to meet someone? Oh, who's this person? And they're just trying to pry a little bit. But, a lot of times they just want you to be happy, I guess.
I think so, yeah. And they want you to be happy. The want is a little bit too much sometimes, to the point of feeling, oh, just chill out a little bit. I know what I'm doing right there.
Yeah, but again, I think sometimes we don't always celebrate, a single person's accomplishments as much as we do.
But I think
getting married
nowadays, everything is getting better. I think, especially for women being single, and I think it's not a big deal. They like being single and they enjoy their life. There's nothing wrong with it, as long as you're happy. If a partner will make you happy, go ahead, go for it. If your life you have right now makes you happy, then live with it. I think people are more not tolerant, but people are more open to those kind of things, that they think being single is not a thing and being single is just a lifestyle, So I think that part is definitely more welcoming nowadays. Yeah,
I'd agree. I think things are changing gradually. It takes a long time to change society's opinions, but
yeah, we're getting there.
Things are on the up and up. Well, hopefully, I don't know.
No,
some days I wonder.
Okay, that is it. Yeah, I like it. I really learned a lot. Like a lot of things that you said there actually made me start to think about. I mean, there, like we said, there are ups and downs, and sometimes you just don't really feel yourself that moment. You may have a lot of doubts about everything you have, but you just need someone to talk with about that kind of things, and then you all of a sudden go, oh yeah, okay, I never thought about that. You just need a different perspective, I think.
Totally. And that's what it's nice to have friends from different, kind of all walks of life, because you get a lot of different experiences and the benefit of a lot of different life experiences.
I was chatting with Wanda the other day, and she said being introverted doesn't mean you don't need friends. I mean, totally. You still need to feel connected. You don't have to go crazy, but you need to know that there's someone there for you when you need them. And so, 100%.
Definitely. I mean, I think introversion just means that you sort of recharge by being on your own, right? It doesn't make you any less outgoing or any more averse to people. I think that's a common misconception.
I learned a new word today. I really want to use that. I think every time when I talk to you, and you are what's that called? Battery charger, not a battery drainer.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So I was watching a documentary about a Tinder swindler on Netflix.
I saw it. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I saw ads.
It was crazy. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. And then the woman said, oh yeah, he's definitely a battery charger. I was like, okay, I'm going to use that today.
Oh, glad I'm being compared in your mind to the Tinder swindler.
Well,
That's so true, though. I do think, yeah, because there are people who drain your energy and there are people who kind of recharge you. And I think it's important to have, I mean, you know, you can't always select the people in your life. I mean, you can't choose who you work with or even sometimes who your family is. But I think that you can, yeah, you can choose who you spend your extra free time with, right? So I was happy to spend this time with you, Bae.
100%. And I feel really good. I mean, we're doing this for a podcast, but also feel like we're just chatting as we normally do. Yeah. So I really like it. Thank you. Nice yeah. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode and everything is honest right there. If you do have your own thoughts and opinions on friendship, please leave a comment down below. I will definitely check it out and I also share that with my friends as well.